got to go.
We say hell no, the SRG has got to go.
We say hell no, the SRG has got to go.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John McFarland. I'm a civil rights union leader with Vocal New York. How's everybody doing out here today? In the interest of time, everybody knows we got a hearing to talk about disbanding the SRG. That will start promptly at 10 a.m. So in the interest of time, I'm going to speed through to run the show. And I ask all my speakers to please keep your comments to under 2 minutes. All right, so we're going to start with Council Member OSSE. We say hell no!
We say hell no!
The SRG has got to go!
The SRG has got to go!
We say hell no!
We say hell no!
The SRG has got to go!
The SRG has got to go!
Good morning, everyone. I'm New York City Council Member OSSE, and I'm proud to stand out here with so many allies in this fight to disband the anti-democratic SRG unit within the agency of the NYPD. This is our second time having a rally before a hearing, and we hope to see the NYPD show up to work today. And this time I hope they show up to work without brutalizing any of us that are standing out here in front of these steps. The SRG is an anti-constitutional unit that is paid for by our taxpayer dollars. In a time where we see in this fiscal future of New York City, we're seeing cuts in our public schools, we're seeing cuts in our libraries, we're seeing cuts in our social services, but continuation of $90 million spent on, again, the anti-constitutional NYPD Strategic Response Group. Now, why is the SRG unit anti-constitutional? Our First Amendment right within the Constitution allows us to protest and assemble whenever we want. And the fact that the SRG is deployed to brutalize and disband folks that are exercising their First Amendment rights is once again anti-constitutional and criminal. If you see many of the videos and images that have taken place from 2020, when we saw a historic uprising here in New York City and across the country, you could see that the NYPD Strategic Response Group was used to brutalize and harm Black and brown New Yorkers. Black and brown New Yorkers that were organizing and assembling non-violently to protest against police violence. And what were they hit with? More police violence. So in this time where we are advocating for change within policing here in New York City and seeing that there are cuts made to every single agency that exists here in New York, we are advocating out here, and I'm advocating out here, to disband the NYPD's SRG unit. In addition to that, I want anyone listening at home, especially hardworking New Yorkers, that you're going to see a lot of cuts in the services that provide you safety here in the city, whether that's mental health services, housing services, as well as public education for your kids. The NYPD last year has spent over $360 million on overtime pay, and in addition to that, they've been paying $90 million for an anti-constitutional strategic response group. Now, this group has also participated in breaking up those that have been protesting to support those that want abortions. The NYPD Strategic Response Group has also been breaking up those that have been advocating for drag queen story hour. Again, this anti-constitutional unit within the NYPD has to be disbanded, and it has to be disbanded right now or through this next budget. So when I say hey, when I say ho, we say the SRG has got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
The SRG has got to go!
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! The SRG has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! The SRG has got to go! Thank you.
All right. Brutal fourth day on the SRG. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up next Council Member HUDSON.
Thank you so much. I'm HUDSON, council member in Brooklyn, representing parts of central Brooklyn that we know are disproportionately impacted by groups like the SRG. We also know that the SRG is akin to the Scorpion unit that killed Tyree Nichols. And so the SRG is not welcome here in New York City. We don't need non-uniformed police officers coming in, brutalizing and disrupting our communities. We know what keeps our communities safe, and as Councilmember OSSE said, what keeps our communities safe is access to affordable housing, access to quality education, access to quality health care, access to so many resources and services that our communities do not have, yet so many of our communities have been experiencing the presence of the SRG. So the SRG has absolutely got to go. Thank you.
I said, Speaker Adams, as you know, the SRG has got to go.
Speaker Adams, as you know, the SRG has got to go.
I said, Speaker Adams, as you know,
The SRG has got to go.
Thank you. And again, without no further ado, I'm going to bring up Council Member HANIF.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Councilmember HANIF, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. And I'm joined by members of the Progressive Caucus. I'm here to say the SRG is not here to stay.
Yes.
The SRG is not here to stay.
The SRG is not here to stay.
The SRG is not here to stay. We've been waiting for this overdue, critical oversight hearing, and I'm so grateful for our advocates, NYCLU, our communities, impacted folks, for demanding that this oversight hearing take place no matter what. And so today, we will make clear that the SRG must be disbanded, not defunded, disbanded. My colleagues, Councilmember OSSE and HUDSON have made clear where we need to be strengthening our investments. And I was so frustrated and baffled to see that the SRG was deployed at the end of last year to harass abortion activists at a time when this city needs to show and demonstrate that we are the safest place for abortion. So having the SRG deployed around folks who need abortions, what message does that send people who need abortions?
Right.
So this city must stand up for New Yorkers and protect New Yorkers. And so with you all, I am here to say the SRG must be disbanded. I'm excited to support Councilmember OSSE's bill, Intro 277, that would prohibit the NYPD from deploying SRG in nonviolent protests. That is a part of the progressive agenda. There's much work ahead, and I'm so thrilled to be joined by all of us in that fight forward. Thank you.
Hey, ho, ho, the SRG has got to go.
Hey, ho, ho, the SRG has got to go.
One time. And introducing next, the senior organizer with the New York Civil Liberties Union, Isabel Leva.
Today is a first step towards accountability. Today is the day that our community members will finally have the opportunity to speak to City Council about the impact of this unit. A little more than a month ago, we were on these steps prepared for the same day. Every time the NYPD evades accountability, we have more time to build power, we have more time to be in community and to talk to our neighbors about why this unit must be disbanded. New Yorkers want to feel safe. The SRG does not keep us safe. The New Yorkers who have had the most direct contact with this unit are standing here to say that the SRG does not keep us safe. I want to thank the council members who are here, the 21 council members who have signed on to this campaign to disband the SRG. I want to thank Councilmember OSSE for being a champion for this issue. And I want to thank our community members, because we would not be here without the people standing behind us who are willing to open wounds and speak about the trauma that the SRG has inflicted on our communities. I hope that these stories are not only listened to, but heard. And I hope that City Council hears us when we say that the SRG will be disbanded.
Yes.
It might not be today and it might not be tomorrow, but the SRG will be disbanded and no unit like it will exist in New York City. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Isabel. Coming up next, I want to introduce Jay Walker, co-founder of the Reclaim Pride Coalition and Queens Liberation March.
Hello, I'm J.W. Walker. I'm one of the co-founders of the Queer Liberation March and the Reclaim Pride Coalition. I'm here because in both 2020 and 2021,
SRG stormtroopers attacked peaceful protesters after the Queer Liberation March. The Queer Liberation March was in part founded to get the police away from pride marches. When we do our march, we adamantly refuse to allow the NYPD to move in on our marchers. We've been successful at that. We've had 4 Queer Liberation marches. On the course of the march, we have never had a problem, even though there are almost no NYPD in sight during our march, because we do not need them. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
But 2 years in a row, in 2020, during the height of the reckoning, and in 2021, the tail end of our march, the end of our march at Washington Square was attacked by NYPD's SRG under pretext, under the flimsiest pretexts possible. Because the SRG exists to make nonviolent protests become violent. They push onto protests, usually protests against police violence or against other government oversteps, and create situations through their violence that turn orderly, peaceful protests into chaotic riots. They act like they're riot police, and they are, because they actually are police that riot. And we New Yorkers are standing up against this. The SRG needs to be disbanded, it has to be eliminated, and the NYPD needs to be reduced in size so that we can exercise our freedom of speech, our right to protest whenever we, the people, want.
Yes, thank you for those words of wisdom, Jay. And without further ado, I'd like to bring up Councilmember Alexa
Hello everyone, my name is Alexa AVILES. I represent the Red Hook, Sunset Park, South Brooklyn. And you know, I was just reflecting on during the protests, I was walking down 4th Avenue with my teenage daughter. We were feeling a lot of love and a lot of conviction, standing with our community members, marching peacefully, marching for something that was important, her future. The future, the present of our people. And when we approached Barclays and we started to see the accumulation of police and their energy, she immediately became afraid. And she's like, Mommy, we have to go. Mommy, we have to go. What did that moment tell her? That moment is telling you exactly what everyone's experience is here. The SRG has got to go. The SRG does not mean peace. The SRG is a way to squash dissent, to pulverize us so that we don't stand up for our rights and our dignity. So I'm here to tell you on behalf of my daughter, on behalf of every child in New York City, on behalf of everyone in New York City, there is no place in our city for the SRG. It needs to be disbanded, and it needs to be disbanded now. Thank you so much.
You got her words of wisdom. Next up, I want to call my brother, Rob Willis, with Latino Justice.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to speak here. I'm going to be brief. I want to say it's not ironic that the SRG unit was formed in 2015 after the Occupy Wall Street and the protests against the murder of Eric Gardner at the hands of the police. This unit was formed, it was conjured up, should I say, in direct opposition to the sensibilities of those us average New Yorkers who want to be a progressive city that seeks liberty and justice for all people. The SRG unit sees us more, when we out there in the streets, they see us more as terrorists, they see us more as causing civil unrest, they see us more as agitators and instigators. I just ask why our emotions and frustrations met with tactical gear and helmets. Helmets that shield the faces of officers who consistently abuse protesters and advocates throughout New York City. Over the past 18 years, the budget for this unit has ballooned from somewhere like 13 million, which was too much to start, to over 90 million. We have to ask ourselves, why are stormtroopers needed at peaceful assemblies? We need to ask ourselves why this money is not being spent on needed services, especially the real crime stopper, which we know to be education. So let me just say this in closing, that with no transparency and no real accountability for how much this unit is costing us in police overtime, how it's formed, there's so many officers that who have such abuse records that get hidden in units like this and then deployed against citizens on New York. Without any accountability, this has just become a dangerous tactical wing of the NYPD, and the SRG unit has to go. Thank you very much.
I said, hell no, not me. I don't need no SRG.
Hell no, not me. I don't need no SRG.
I said, hell no, not me.
I don't need no SRG. Hell no, not me. I don't need no SRG.
Hell no,
not me. I don't need no SRG.
I said, hell no,
not me. I don't need no SRG.
I'm going to bring up next, and the collective members of New York City for abortion rights.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Bex, and we are here today as collective members of NYC for abortion rights. You might think that abortion, a medical procedure that's legal in New York State, would have very little to do with the NYPD, but unfortunately, as we've already heard, that is very, very far from the case. Every month, NYC for Abortion Rights organizes a clinic defense to delay anti-abortion people from harassing patients seeking reproductive care. The main anti-abortion group we oppose during these defenses gets an armed NYPD escort for its procession to the Basilica of Old St. Pat's, the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Soho. While we work to protect patients and providers, the NYPD enables harassment and intimidation and gives preferential treatment to anti-abortion bigots and those who support them, which includes members of fascist far-right groups. Out of the 8 clinic defenses we have organized since the Dobbs decision in June, the SRG has made violent arrests at 3. The violence displayed by the SRG is reserved for clinic defenders and never extends to the anti-abortion demonstrators who are allowed to physically harm defenders and proceed to the clinic to harass patients as they wish. In a state where abortion is legal, the SRG has proven that you can be arrested for defending an abortion clinic. Cop Mayor Eric Adams made a big show of strengthening access to abortion in New York City when Roe fell, stating that, quote, safe, legal abortion care is the cornerstone of public health in our city, end quote. Yet his administration undermines its alleged support for abortion by financing a bloated police budget used to deploy militarized forces against abortion activists and to provide dedicated protection to the clinic invaders and harassers. The collusion between the NYPD and the far right is as well documented as it is grotesque, and it only further endangers our communities. The hearing today has been a long time coming. We have seen how the NYPD is able to use its influence over the governing bodies of the city to evade investigation and accountability. Today, we will finally be able to tell the City Council how we feel about millions of dollars which could be going to education, housing, libraries, infrastructure, and other public goods, being used to instead fund a police unit that brutalizes New Yorkers. The NYPD's continued refusal to testify at this hearing only further illustrates the impunity with which they are allowed to act. We always knew that the NYPD does not care about being accountable to the people they claim to serve, but their refusal brings this fact into plain sight. NYPD officials and the Adams administration would like you to believe that the NYPD and the SRG are forces for good in the city of New York, but we, the community, know better. That's right. We will continue to push for accountability, and we will not stop until our communities are safe from the SRG's brand of draconian violence. We stand here on behalf of NYC for abortion rights to demand that the SRG be disbanded, not partially defunded, and not rebranded. We will not settle for anything less than the SRG's full disbandment. Thank you. Yeah.
collective members of New York City for abortion rights.
Woo!
And we know that we've seen, when it comes to the abortion clinics, we've seen a lot of protester abuse, right? A lot of folks that's just practicing civil disobedience, and SRG is part and parcel of that problem. Next, this individual needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams.
Peace and blessings, double night to everyone. Glad to see you here. I'm sorry you have to be here. In 2015, the police department said that SRG would not be used to police protests. Obviously, that was not true. What frustrates me the most is that I understand the need to sometimes use law enforcement around large-scale protests. What I don't understand is the need to use people who are trained for terrorism and terrorist attack to police largely non-violent protests. That makes no sense and can only lead to the type of things that we saw. When you deploy people who are trained for highly tense situations, for possibly terrorist situations, that is the mindset that they will come with, particularly if they are armed and have tactical gear and are ready for a fight. What do you think will happen when they come up with people who are non-violently protesting and who themselves are frustrated with what they see many times as already communities being over-policed? There is no need for a group of people who are trained to deal with terrorism. I want you to understand that. I hope that's the message that goes forth. The SRG was supposedly trained to deal with terrorism. They were unleashed to people who were non-violently protesting. And I gotta tell you, having received some of that over-response, having witnessed and videoed some of that over-response, we shouldn't even need to have this hearing because the administration should be already agreeing with us that something is The footage is out there. The reports are out there. So what are we arguing about? We have to simply say don't use people who are trained for terrorism to deal with nonviolent peaceful protests. That makes no sense. And all it did was unnecessarily increase tension. And that's not what we need. That's the opposite of what you said was going to occur. So I'm hoping after this hearing, I think this is the third time the council is trying to put it on, I really hope the NYPD is here to have a discussion. Because if they don't, if they're not, it's an affront to the entire city of New York. So I really hope they're here today because we deserve to have this conversation and we deserve to have it in public. Because knowing New York, how I know New York, there's going to be some more protests. And if SRG is the one that's deployed, it's going to be a problem. And lastly, to add to what I know was said, how they police certain protests was quite clear. When I saw the Proud Boys being allowed to go into the train station without paying their fare, when I see who was focused on when it came to the Drag Queen Story Hour, and then when I saw people who were protesting about over-policing, there was a clear difference in who was targeted and how they were policed. That is unacceptable in New York City. We're supposed to be leading the way, not far behind. Peace and blessings.
For those words from Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. Next, I'd like to bring up Francine Lusencourt. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. For Strategy for Black Lives. Thank you.
Who keep us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
The focus is on community. And as you can clearly see, the community has spoken. We are exercising our First Amendment rights and being met with a violent, racist unit of the NYPD.
How many more times is the New York Police Department going to escape accountability? They can't even show up to a committee hearing to do their job. I have seen firsthand, countless of times, the violence and the prejudice against protesters who are fighting against police violence and being met with more violence than have the nerve to hop on the media and act like we are the perpetrators of said violence. The community is here to end this cycle. Enough is enough. We need to advocate for policies that focus on investment in communities and not incarceration. We have had the same incarceration-focused tactics for decades. To this day, people are still dying in Rikers. When are we going to hold the NYPD accountable? When are we going to hold this administration accountable for doing what we all know is just? The police are not the answer. We are the answer. Because who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Thank you. All power to the people.
That's my cue. Stop. Thank you for those kind and sophisticated words. Next up, without further ado, I want to bring up Councilmember Lincoln Rose.
Thank you so much. Let's give John a big round of applause. Yes, there is, truly. And I want to thank NYCLU and this incredible coalition. Let's do a little chant. Disband the SRG.
Disband the SRG! Disband the SRG! Disband the SRG! Disband the SRG! Disband the SRG!
Every single person here has attended a protest in New York City where we have peacefully expressed our opinions, where we have peacefully organized, and we have witnessed the SRG aggressively beat our fellow New Yorkers back, hitting them with batons, using pepper spray, kettling people in, aggressive, violent tactics against peaceful protesters. Every single person here has witnessed this. All of us as New Yorkers have borne witness. And what has this administration done? Nothing. Nothing. There is no role for the SRG, an anti-terrorist unit, to be patrolling, to be policing, to be inciting violence at our peaceful protests. That is what Councilmember OSSE and Public Advocate Williams' legislation will do. It stops the SRG from getting involved in peaceful protests. When we are organizing, when we are demonstrating, when we are expressing our rights, we should be able to do it peacefully. But time and again, the SRG has incited violence. It must stop. If this administration, if this mayor, if this police commissioner will not do the right thing, then this city council will. Let's make it happen.
Speaker Adams, you should know the SRG has got to go.
Speaker Adams, you should know the SRG has got to go.
Speaker Adams, you should know
the SRG has got to go.
Speaker Adams, you should know
the SRG has got to go.
The council members, y'all do know
the SRG has got to go.
Be careful. Without further ado, I want to introduce Ms. Kimberly Bernard.
Woo!
I became an activist, an organizer on the heels of the George Floyd lynching. In 2020, not only New Yorkers, but across America and across the world, people stepped out into the streets to protest something that had been going on in this country for hundreds of years. The murder, the lynching of black people in this country.
That ain't right.
What we stepped out to do was to demand that we be treated fairly and equally. What we stepped out to do was to demand that this country rein in its police officers and prevent them from murdering black bodies. In the face of demanding that they stop killing us, stop abusing us, stop unjustly arresting and incarcerating us, what this country did was it spat in our faces by unleashing the very same police officers that we were protesting on us to create more damage, more harm, and even death. Because we know that there are people who were fighting for black lives during that movement, not only who were harmed, but they were also killed. Yep. I've witnessed on that bridge, around that corner, my friends and fellow protesters and organizers have their ribs cracked, their arms broken. I've witnessed white supremacists plowing their vehicles through protesters and watched as the SRG rushed to protect the white supremacists and arrest the people who were harmed. It is a slap in the face of black people in this country. It is a slap in the face of people who love justice. For this government, for New York City, for this mayor to pull funding from public schools, from libraries, from arts programs, from our communities, only to put those same fundings into the NYPD. We are hearing our elected officials, not all of them, but many of you, we are hearing you loud and clear, because where you put your money tells us where your mind and heart is. So it doesn't matter how many times you come on TV and say you stand with the movement. You stand with the people. If you stand with us, put your money where your mouth is. Your symbolism means nothing to us. Spray painting Black Lives Matter on streets, that means nothing to us. If you stand with the people, fund our schools, fund our children, fund our communities. If you stand with us, prove it. And that is what we are here to say today. If you believe in equal rights and justice, you cannot stand on the cusp of justice and injustice. There is no middle ground when it comes to right and wrong. You are either with the people or you are against the people. Where do you stand? And that is what we're all here today to ask our elected officials, to ask our mayor, where do you stand? If you stand with the people, you have no choice but to disband the SRG. You have no choice but to reduce the size of the NYPD. The NYPD is the size of the army of a small nation. How do you in good conscience pump millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into a police force while your children are hungry? If you want to know the integrity, the soul of a nation, look at the way they treat their children. The answer to justice cannot be more injustice. Disband the SRG. All power to the people.
I don't even know how to introduce the next speaker after that. We should all take 5. Where's the water at? In any event, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. He done this aptly with the Legal Aid Society.
Thank you for coming out today. At the Legal Aid Society, we see every day where the city chooses to spend their money. We see every day the lack of mental health and substance abuse resources put into our community. And we see every day the disgusting amount of money put into the NYPD, and specifically put into officers that are known abusers. We're here today to demand that you disband the SRG.
Yes.
The officers in the SRG have the most complaints against them out of any other officers in all of the NYPD. They choose officers for the SRG that are violent, brutal, and abusive. If we want to envision our future, it's very easy. You just see where we spend our money. If we are investing millions of dollars, something what, 133 billion right now in brutal SRG unit of the NYPD, and we're cutting our libraries, our public schools, we can clearly see what our future is going to look like. Do we want an educated, healthy, mentally stable citizens, or do we want a militarized police state? It's our choice, and our city has to make the right choice today. Disband the SRG.
Yes. So as we come to a close, I'd like to introduce my last speaker, personal friend, Micah. For the Current Heights Care Collective.
Hey, everybody, you've heard everything everybody's had to say. I want to draw attention to the fact that not only in the middle of trying to disband this very violent, very unhinged, with no accountability, no oversight, group of goons, not only have they been terrorizing us for the last 3 years, and we're having to relive it over and over again, this trauma, watching our friends stripped naked, watching people, children bleeding and being arrested, watching people get hit by cars, and then the people who are helping them, providing them medical care, get arrested to keep them from getting medical care. That's just kind of wild stuff that we've had to watch, like a war zone. Not only has that happened, but it's not weird to me that the SRG is refusing to show up for accountability in the middle of being deployed to 19 different precincts as a permanent unit. So keep that in mind. After hearing everything that's happened, they're about to put these violent offenders to our community as permanent positions in 19 precincts across the 5 boroughs. That ain't right, and that is terrifying. These people are terrifying, and now they're putting them in high crime areas. When you look at 50-A.org on these high crime areas, what you will see are these officers that are being reported for false arrests, for false pullovers, for all this false stuff. And then that is showing as high crime. That is a guise and a lie. They are putting these terrorizers in our communities, and we are going to have future hashtags. This is literally life or death. This is not some abstract thing that y'all can like everything's political. You can't use this as a campaign thing and then not show up for us and as if it is not life or death for us, for your community. The city council, this shouldn't even be an issue. They were formed in 2015. They can be disbanded right now. They are clearly not accepting accountability. They are refusing to show up. Does that not terrify you? Does that not terrify you? That the police don't have to come to their own accountability meeting in the New York City Hall? Does that not terrify you? We have to disband the SRG. It is a life or death issue. If the city council is not willing to put their best foot forward on this, we will be at your doorstep next.
Yes.
I just want to say, regardless whether the NYPD shows up to the hearing or not, this is about the city council, right? And I would demand that they take action to disband the SRG. NYPD doesn't want to show up, don't show up, who cares, right? The public and the people are here to speak to our city council. These are the people that we voted into office. And these are the people that we're going to speak to demand that they disband the SRG. You know, council members, as y'all see, please disband the SRG. Council members,
please disband the SRG.
Also, as you can see right now, I just do want to know, it's 2 until 10, so the hearing's about to start in 2 minutes. And these are the only 2 entrances, or at least public entrances, for those that are entering City Hall to come through. We have yet to see the NYPD show up. This is disrespectful to the people of New York. This shows you everything that was said today is still true, and the fact that they are not coming up today. We need to hold them accountable. The city needs to hold them accountable. They cannot just be an arm used of this administration to brutalize our communities. This is disrespectful if the NYPD has yet to show up to a hearing that starts at 10 a.m. Even if they do show up, they're late for their job.
Council members, stand with G. Please disband the SRG.
Council members, stand with G. Please disband the SRG. Council members, stand with G. Please disband the SRG. Council members, stand with G. Please disband the SRG.
Thank everybody. All my local New York comrades, all the advocates, activists, lawyers, anybody else in any other profession that is standing with us, the media, thank everybody. Thank you. Have a good day. Show up for this hearing. 10 a.m. Going on right now.